What's up, Kings? Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. In today's video, I want to go over some of the best passages that I came across in this book, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. I first discovered this book and the concept of karezza, which is just a really slow intimacy, by Gold Jacket Luke. So Luke, if you ever end up watching this, thank you so much for recommending that book. It was a great read, and let's get into it. So basically, this book is advocating the soft intimacy in relationships and minimizing ejaculations between couples, both for men and women. And honestly, by reading this book, it sort of made me more willing to believe that perhaps the benefits of retention of the vital energy are equally beneficial for men and women, or at the very least, the benefits show up in different ways, but still have these nourishing effects in both sexes. Maybe in men it shows up with a little bit more vigor. Virya, the translation for virya is vigor. And maybe in women, I would say there are some health benefits or psychological benefits that are retained. And what I found most useful about this book were actually the anecdotes and the personal experiences that are sort of sprinkled throughout the book. And so that is primarily what I'm going to be reading from. Let's start with this opening line. By avoiding sexual satiety, we can use intimate relationships to evoke feelings of optimism and abundance more consistently. Orgasm can set off mood swings and perception shifts that linger for approximately 2 weeks. No matter who the woman was, I was as good as gone the moment we made love. Eventually, a man can develop feelings of indifference or hate for his sexual partner because he subconsciously realizes that when he touches her, he loses those higher energies that could make him a truly happy man. I think this is a very useful passage because I worry that as maybe some women start to follow me or kind of follow what I'm talking about, maybe they'd resent my message, or some people might worry that the practice of brahmacharya might create separation in people who are in a relationship. But one thing that this book sort of pushes forward right from the beginning is that a man or woman who reaches sexual satiety, our genes aren't programmed to make us happy or be in a loving relationship. The function of our genes primarily is to propagate the species. And so there is a built-in mechanism of sexual satiety. And that's why after you are kind of climax in a woman's company, it's inevitable every time that the man sort of is done with her for a little bit, and he needs a break from her. There's a little bit of a pushing away. No matter how loving the relationship is, immediately after ejaculation, the man needs to push away for a little bit, and usually he falls asleep. Well, this is very indicative of how draining this process can be. And so there is sort of a subconscious kind of resentment that could arise over the long term if this drain continues indefinitely. A subtle sense of lack. Hard as it was to accept, orgasm indeed seemed to be the deciding factor. However blissful the encounter itself, a strange separation or uncomfortable alienation showed up over the days following my partner's climax, and it lingered for about 2 weeks. Remember the movie When Harry Met Sally? Billy Crystal said that 30 seconds after making love, he wants to get out of bed and leave. When I asked a man about it, he replied, "Yeah, I guess that's how most men feel. Boom, I'm done. Elvis has left the building, the fat lady has sung, thank you and goodbye." Billy Crystal is hilarious. Okay, here is an anecdote that kicked in. I believe this is a woman's perspective. No, this one is a man, and this is what he noted after 10 months of giving up orgasm. I've seen big changes in other aspects of my life too. My finances are sorting themselves out, and my professional life is expanding in directions I always wanted it to, but was unable to take it before. The opportunities continue to flow to me effortlessly and work out great. I have a lot more confidence in myself. I'm calm and focused. And now I'm comfortable with being in a partnership instead of seeing myself as a separate entity who happens to be involved with someone at the same time. I'm much more optimistic about relationships. Here's another anecdote, this time from a woman's perspective. What I have experienced firsthand is that orgasm with a partner or on my own definitely triggers addictive tendencies, as well as old, neurotic, emotional patterns. Avoiding orgasm gives me a more sound foundation to work from. My intuition is heightened, my intellect is more powerful, and I just feel better about myself overall. I also get along better with people, and I can handle stress much more competently. I've achieved a level of emotional stability that I have never had in my entire life. I react much more appropriately to life's up and downs when I used to just fall apart. Okay, so an exercise that the author asks for the reader to kind of partake in is to keep a journal of what life is like in a relationship 2 weeks after orgasm. There tends to be more friction, she says. And I think there is like a 2-week type pattern with the retentive process as well. Some of you may have noticed, attraction on nofap. There's like a sine curve nature to it, and I think it happens every 2 weeks. Like there is a point every 2 weeks where attraction from the world, attraction from women is at an all-time high, and then it dips for a little bit, and then it comes back up a lot 2 weeks later. At least this is something that I've noticed in the kind of like 8.5 months now that I've been doing this. And this may have something to do with the absorption process or the reabsorption process, that when the semen is retained, it goes back into the blood and nourishes it, and that process is sort of about 2 weeks. But the author of this book, she says that especially women might not notice a depreciation after orgasm initially, but something does tend to show up in about 2 weeks, and it causes friction in the relationship. An interesting point. Okay, the pitfalls of self-sufficiency. In my experience, there are actually 2 ways to be celibate while waiting for the right partner, and I've been in both. One is about repression of the sexual energy. The other kind, though, is about transformation. This is the kind that benefits me. It is difficult to distinguish at first, and I think most people who attempt to give up masturbation almost certainly will experience discomfort in the beginning. Transforming sexual energy basically means using it for a higher purpose, such as personal growth, spiritual practice, service to others, and so forth. In my case, I went back to school and amazed myself with academic performance. I can honestly say that my physical and emotional health are much better than when I was masturbating frequently, and I still have a healthy sex drive, as far as I can tell. But I learned that I could not just stop masturbating, yet continue to do everything else the same way I did before I stopped, such as isolating myself or zoning out with TV. I had to use the energy towards a larger goal. It seems that finding a partner kind of happens on its own. I'm just starting to date again after 2 years. Caitlin. So this is... I'm sort of starting to take back something I had said in an earlier video, that nofap benefits men more than women. I mean, I think maybe that is still true, but what I'm leaning towards now is maybe women get 60 to 80% of the benefits that a man would get. Listen, there's no definitive hard science or like deep literature about men versus women on nofap, but this is basically where my inclination is going now, and it's anecdotes like these that lead me to believe this, as well as I have watched some of the female nofap videos, and they seem to be prospering from this discipline just as much as we are. So Kasumi, Chris, Jane Michaels, I'm a fan of you guys, and I appreciate your message. Okay. The next point is nofap in a relationship. I think this is a question that a lot of people have given me, like how does one make relationships work while doing nofap? And I think these words resonate deeply in that sphere. In these months of long distance relationship, I have clearly noticed how when I do not masturbate, my affection and love for my girlfriend increases. I can see that in the way I write to her as well, as a nice, overflowing feeling of love tangibly felt in the area of the heart. But after masturbating, there is a change in that. The feeling of love gets less, and the way I write to her changes as well. I sort of become more aloof, and that is reflected in my words. After about 2 weeks of not masturbating, things change back again. My first attempt of doing nofap was in August 2017. Shortly after, once I hit October, I actually went to Mumbai to do an acting workshop, and I reconnected with someone I had known in college, and we sort of had this little bit of a relationship that was starting. And about I was on day 47 or so that I was like going out with her and also retaining. And I was feeling such deep reservoirs of just emotion for her. Like, I loved looking at the shape of her neck and into her eyes, and it was just like it wasn't a violent sexuality. It was very kind of like strong, but maybe strong in the way that Aragorn would have looked at Arwen. It was kind of like a deep, true feeling. And once I hit about day 47, I actually relapsed. I relapsed while I was in Mumbai at the tail end of my acting workshop. And once that happened, I lost that deep reservoir of feeling for her. It like dwindled a little bit, which freaked me out. But I think there is a lot of benefit and power that comes while doing nofap, while on the streak, you engage in romance. You have so much more to give. You have so much more almost like vigorous energy and true almost love to give to the woman you're with. So in a lot of ways, I think this is beneficial and not detrimental to a relationship, even though perhaps the woman would find a bit of a sacrifice that's being made because, you can't express full sexuality, women like it when they can make you finish, and you sort of you're taking that away from the relationship a little bit. Okay. The next anecdote is when the author is talking about one of her gay friends who finally, after having a lot of failed relationships, he decided to practice a retentive practice. She said when she came and visited him, "I often stopped by to visit, and I was dazzled as Mark bloomed into a brilliant, natural leader. Charismatic, hardworking, funny, reliable, and a genius at kidding slackers into full participation. He also crackled with a magnetic, thoroughly masculine electricity I had barely glimpsed, but which he wore now as naturally as any team captain. He flirted with everyone in a lighthearted way, and everyone of both sexes wanted to work with him. It came as little surprise that he was promoted twice in the first 2 weeks." Hey, one thing that immediately changed once I hit 2 months is that I stopped being unemployed. Like, I just had all the right intuitions and ideas on what to study, how to build my portfolio, how to crackle with confidence. My confidence is definitely 70% higher, I got a job, and shortly after getting that job, 4 or 5 months later, I got another one. And so a position that's remote, something that I'd really had hoped for myself so that I could keep pursuing my acting career. There is a lot of energy and potency and momentum that comes into your professional life by practicing this discipline. That is actually the last anecdote in this video. It's a little bit of a longer video, so apologies for that, but I hope there's been some value in this. I think it's a great read if you're wondering how to sustain this lifestyle while in a relationship. The author gives a lot of valuable insights on that. So that's it for this video. Happy Thanksgiving once again. Hope it's a wonderful one for you, and I will see you next time. Cheers.